Carnivores, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. I hope you all are having a fantastic start to your new year. As always, drop a comment down below and let me know how you all are doing. Update me on your carnivore progress so far. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Steak and Butter Gal for even more carnivore content, tips, tricks, and recipes. For today's video, I have the absolute honor to invite on Dr. Sabrina Solt, as well as her carnivore husband, Zac Solt. Steak and Butter Guy and I join in on this carnivore couple-to-couple conversation to discuss all things libido, specific foods that change the game when it comes to libido, energy, mood, drive, and anti-aging. We also discuss the many therapies that Dr. Solt practices in helping her patients heal chronic inflammation, pain, and injuries. By the way, Dr. Solt will be one of the guest speakers in my January challenge, so if you are interested in learning from the following brilliant minds shown on the screen, feel free to check out the challenge, join us, and be a part of the Steak and Butter Gang community. Just go to sbgmeetup.com or click the links down below for more details on the challenge and how to sign up. Without further ado, let me invite on our guests, Dr. Sabrina Solt and her husband, Zac Solt. Hey guys, how are you doing?
We're awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Very good. Thank you.
So we'll just jump right into it. I would love for you each to take a minute to just introduce yourselves first.
I'm Dr. Sabrina Solt. I am a naturopathic medical doctor, and I specialize in regenerative and anti-aging medicine. We're both located here in Phoenix, Arizona. And we've both been carnivore for about a year now.
How did you both stumble across the carnivore diet?
Yeah, well, he's actually the first person who stumbled upon it. So he's the type that he'll like dive into the depths of YouTube for a couple of days and then resurface with all this new information. And it was Dr. Anthony Chaffee that really like turned him on to the carnivore way of eating. And I thought he was completely insane. I was like, you're going to die. You're going to explode. Like, as a naturopathic doctor, we're just ingrained that vegetables are the best thing in the world. And I think I think that's insane now. And so he did it. And I was like, I'll just watch. And I started to see his changes in real life. Like, his skin got better. His whites of his eyes got better. He just was more even keeled, more energy, like just showing up better and healthier. I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And that was actually what prompted me to start it as well. And I was like way more of a slow transition. He's like, I'm going to jump in with both feet and just go balls to the wall. And he just went like meat, salt, water.
It was cold. Yeah, cold turkey.
He cold turkeyed everything, went meat, salt, water. I went a little slower. So the first thing that I did was I used to eat a salad for lunch every single day. I cut out that salad, and like the lower belly fat that I used to have just kind of went away. Right after having two kids, like it was just gone. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. And then I was worried because I was still nursing my youngest. I was worried about my milk supply. So I was still eating rice and oats because those are like good for milk supply. And then I was like, let's just cut them out and see what happens. Nothing happened to my milk supply. Like, I was still able to feed my baby like completely fine.
She eats about 2 pounds of steak a day. And that's pretty much it. Maybe a little bit of yogurt. I would eat dairy, but I'm actually allergic to it. Yeah.
We found out through him going carnivore that he has a severe dairy allergy. And carnivore actually got me back the ability to eat dairy. So it was like a super interesting transition for both of us, which was cool. I went through this initial phase at the beginning where I just like had this massive craving for yogurt one day. And I think it was because my body just went so long without any source of calcium. Like, I was eating so many vegetables, blocks absorption of minerals. It taxes your minerals. And I think for about a month, I was eating a giant container, like one of those big containers of like the grass-fed organic yogurt almost every day. And it was so good. I felt amazing on it. It was like the best thing ever.
Yeah. And I'm jealous.
So I would love to hear more about breastfeeding, because a lot of carnivores are concerned that the carnivore diet is not safe when you're breastfeeding, when you're fresh out of giving birth, or even just raising babies, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
So many thoughts. So now my thought process, I thought about this today. Like, how insane is it that like most people have been fed this lie that in order to like lose weight or be healthy, you need to fill up on nutrient devoid cellulose, right? And so if I think back to what I was doing postpartum with my first baby, I was eating salads all the freaking time. And I still didn't have a problem with my milk supply necessarily, but I felt like crap. Like, I felt terrible. And what I've come to realize now is that your milk supply is more dependent on the full-on nutrients that you're putting into your body, right? So steak is super nutritious. All sorts of good fat is super nutritious. And then I realized minerals were a big thing. So I've been on like this mineral kick for years. And I've taken these minerals that they're called Quinton minerals. They're like, they come in these glass vials, love them. But I realized early on that those actually spiked my milk supply almost better than most of the foods I was eating. Besides, like I said earlier, like the rice and the oats, like for some reason, those carbs would just like instant engorgement almost.
Wow.
But now I would feel so confident. Like if we ever had another kid, I don't know if we would, being full carnivore, not only throughout the pregnancy, but absolutely postpartum as well. There's no reason for me to eat anything but the most nutrient dense foods to fuel my body and to build another human.
Did you experience an increase in milk supply after going carnivore or about the same?
It stayed about the same. He was about a year old, so we were not exclusively nursing. We were, just doing it as a supplemental thing. He was already eating full on food by that point, which we've raised him carnivore.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. He's almost 2, but he's basically carnivore.
Yeah, he turns 2 next month, and because we were transitioning into this when he was getting into real food, the kid's never had a vegetable. Like
Never.
He's had some fruit, and he's had we've been places where like people have had pizza and he's had a bite of it, but he doesn't like it. Like
I've literally seen him spit a strawberry out because I offered him steak.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
He had a strawberry in his mouth. He was chewing it. And I said, here's steak. He spit the strawberry out to take the steak.
Mm-hmm.
So-
He was a year and a half and chewing ribs off the bone. Like,
Oh yeah. If I give him a pork rib, he'll literally eat every bite, like clean the bone.
I gotta imagine, like he goes to birthday parties with his friends and whatnot. It's an important part of childhood. So when he does go to those kinds of events, he strays away from the cake, all the kind of birthday treats.
so our oldest grew up in the other way, right? So
Yeah.
she's experienced the other side. So she's had the pizza and the pastries and the cakes, and she has a really bad sweet tooth that we're trying to curb. We've gotten to the point where the only thing like sweet we'll let her have is some honey, and some fruit. But for the most part, she's carnivore as well. But man, she really pushes the envelope. And whenever she is anywhere else that they're going to give her other food, like she does not miss the opportunity to do it. But what we just try to do on the back end is like teach her about how she feels afterwards. So like we'll make a point for her to like look at her poop, like see how your poop is now different because you went and ate that, or your belly hurts, or you're more tired, or like we'll just like point out those changes to her and hope that like eventually she'll come to terms with making the right choice.
We also do meat first with her.
Yeah, we do have a rule. It's meat first. So if you do want to have something else, you have to finish the meat that you've been given first, and then we can have something else.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest demotivators of people starting this carnivore diet is the kind of social isolation that one would experience. So I'm just curious, as parents, do you ever worry that your child is going to go through something like that and it's going to cause difficulty for them in other areas of their life?
Mm.
We have a problem with that at her school because they give her snacks, and the snacks have seed oils. They're usually like graham crackers or what's that? Butter?
Sunflower butter.
So I try to teach her. I'm like, that's not good for you. That's, even though the other kids like it or they want to eat it, you shouldn't eat it. And she's kind of getting it now. She's like, she'll actually tell on herself if she has some. She'll tell me, "Oh, Daddy, I ate this."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And her best friend in school actually comes from a vegan family.
oh yeah.
So that's been fun. And that best friend has actually slept over at our house 2 nights. And you better believe that kid loved bacon for breakfast.
Oh, we gave her
Oh,
eggs.
she ate bacon?
Yeah.
She was so happy. And I'm not a bad person. I cleared this with the mom first because the mom's like, you know what? This is how we've raised her. But if she's curious about meat, she can have it. Oh, she went wild. She grabs the bacon and she goes, "Is this vegan bacon?" I was like, "No, honey, that's the real stuff." And she bites it. It was like the lights just went off in her head. It was so good.
That's amazing. This is the first I've ever heard of what it's like to be a parent raising a child,
Yep.
starting right from the get-go with the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. I've always been curious, if there are children would struggle with the same issues that adults would committing to a carnivore diet.
I think you nailed it though with the social situation. That's really all it is. Like we go to Costco for grocery shopping, and like 95% of Costco are things that we don't eat. So they still see all the other things that are there, and we have to explain to them, well, that's not real food for us. Other people will eat that, but for us, that's not good, healthy food. We always say we're trying to be big and strong. That's all. Like that's what we want to do.
That's what I tell Zoe, like, you want to be strong, you have to eat meat. And she gets that. She'll tell me, she's like, "Daddy, I had meat today. I'm going to be big and strong." Look at my muscles.
How old are your kids?
Our oldest is going to be 5 in January, and our youngest will be 2 next month.
We were just talking about this today. Zen is like his milestones are.
Oh man, he hit all of his milestones early. It's insane. I'm like, man, maybe we should just give him a couple seed oils. Like slow that kid
Slow him down a little bit. Yeah. I mean, he's basically talking and he's not even 2 yet.
Yeah, he's saying full sentences. I mean, they're like kind of like he doesn't quite get the full word expression, but he'll say like 4-word sentences. And he's not even 2.
Not even 2.
And how old are both of you guys, if you don't mind sharing?
He's 33.
38.
Wow, you guys look fantastic. I know on your Instagram page and your YouTube channel, which are fantastic, I've linked them both down below in the description box. You guys love to focus on sexual health, and I would love to open up the conversation on this topic. Let's just start general. What are your top tips, advice to improve sexual health?
Oh my gosh, where do we even start? Get off the sugar.
Yeah.
If you're gonna like get off the sugar, get off the alcohol, cut out seed oils. Like you do those things, you will almost guarantee that you're gonna change how your sexual performance is. The way that I kind of like to break it down for people is that there's 3 main ingredients that we need for proper sexual function. And I focus a lot on guys, but it actually applies the same for women too. So you need adequate hormone levels, you need adequate nerve conduction, and you need adequate blood flow. If one or more of those things are off, you're not going to have any sort of satisfactory sexual experience. So when it comes to like assessing somebody when they're coming in to see me, I have to figure out, okay, which area do we actually need to cover to get you back your function? And a lot of the time it's some degree of all 3.
So I'm curious on the craze on oysters, because you hear so many opinions about it, if it's myth or if it's not. So, hearing it from the pro, what's your opinion on oysters? I know you guys have Oyster Fridays, so probably believe in it a bit.
Yeah, so we love oysters. And the biggest thing that oysters provide is a whole bunch of trace minerals that most people's diets are devoid of. Things like zinc, selenium, copper, iodine. Like I said, I'm a mineral junkie because I really do feel like that's the one thing that most people are undernourished in. I actually just ran my own labs last week and I checked my mineral status. My minerals are still tanked. And I have been doing serious mineral repletion on myself for at least a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
But caveat to that, I was also drinking coffee. We actually are completely off coffee, all caffeine. Like we're because he read this book and he's been sharing with me. I'm going to read it as well. But coffee completely blocks mineral absorption and it actually depletes your minerals as well. And if you think about minerals in general, like that's what provides like our electricity in our body. That's what actually literally energizes us. And of course, there's so many other things they do as far as immune function goes, skin function goes, like sexual function as well. Of course, when we're talking about oysters in that context, that's what they're replacing in the body is those minerals that have been depleted in most people. And we love them. So we would do Oyster Fridays. Every Friday, we'll get the oysters from Whole Foods. They're $1 each. They shuck them for you.
On Fridays they're $1 each.
It's the greatest
if you
deal.
ask them, they'll shuck them for you.
Yeah, $1 shucked. That you take them home. Like it's so good, and they usually have multiple varieties, and we'll like taste test. But so we started doing that, and we would share them on our social media, and we would like, hey, we're doing Oyster Fridays, and people would always comment, I wish I could find oysters near me, or I don't like the taste of oysters, or all these other comments. I'm like, well, how can we actually like bring this to more people? And so I started looking, I was like, is there like an oyster supplement? And I use this online dispensary that's available to physicians. It's called Full Script. And it's got like 22,000 products on there. They're like super high quality and not one oyster supplement. So I went to Amazon and I was like, okay, maybe there's something on Amazon. And all the ones on Amazon were gimmicky at best, had fillers in them, and none of them actually said if they were tested for things like heavy metals or like to guarantee what the nutrient levels in there or whether they were farmed or not. Wow. So then fast forward, bunch of more research happening, found this guy in Ireland, marine biologist who like owns the fisheries and everything like that, who we were able to get our oyster product from. So we actually have a pure oyster product now that we both still take daily. Big increases in energy, but we're strong believers.
And sex drive.
Oh yeah, sex drive is a really big thing too. And this is like a silly thing, but I have nursing boobs and they like plumped up. Like it was pretty, he noticed too.
I definitely noticed that. I was like, wow.
What I'm still stuck on is $1 per oyster, really?
At Whole Foods.
I would personally pay $3 just for them to shuck one, but they'll shuck them for free.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
If you ever try to shuck oysters, it's a pain.
That's for people who haven't had oysters. That's an incredible value because if you go to an oyster house, you're looking at least $3.50.
Yeah.
When I first went carnivore, I despised the flavor and the taste of oysters, right? And he would take me out on dates and he would take me to oyster bars. And there was one date where he was like, just try it one more time.
There was only one date.
Okay, just one date.
It was one of our first dates.
Yes.
I was trying to be a gentleman. We went to some kind of a
Steakhouse, great oysters
in
as
Manhattan.
Well, yeah.
And we had ordered these oysters because she was curious about them.
Yes.
And I love oysters. I've always really loved the taste, albeit it's definitely an acquired taste.
Yes,
I think.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Because my first time having it with him, I hated it. I was like, how can people like this?
Yeah.
I was going to say for a first date, that's pretty brave for you to take her to an oyster bar.
A lot of people don't know this, but after a woman has a baby and she's nursing, the hormone that you create when you're nursing is something called prolactin. And prolactin will actually inhibit your other hormones that drive your sex drive because it's not evolutionary preferred for you to be seeking out to create another baby while you're still nursing one, right? So for me to have a boost in that when all my hormones were saying otherwise, I think says something to what they do.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
You did talk about your body changing in a more feminine way. And this is another observation that I've made, both with my own body and other females who report back to me the changes that they've discovered. So I was wondering if you could explain why this happens when females go on the carnivore diet, they see positive changes to their body. So their breasts, booty, even like start changing. Why does this happen?
Oh gosh, there's so many layers to this. This is going to be fun to unpack. So one of them being, again, back to the mineral conversation, zinc and copper are two minerals that are actually related to how you develop sexually. And if you don't have a lot of these in your childhood growing up, or you're eating foods that are going to block block the absorption of those in foods that you are eating, like if you're eating plants and vegetables, you actually may not go through puberty as effectively as you should have when you were a child. So when you transition into being an adult and you start getting all these other minerals, nutrients, everything back into your body will actually finish up puberty the way that it should have in the first place, which is really, really neat. And the other thing is that, well, maybe now your body actually feels safe enough to hold on to that. And okay, so this is another evolutionary thing too, because how a woman's body develops is technically evolutionary preferred to attract a mate, right? Well, if you are constantly starving your body by eating nutritionally devoid food, like a ton of vegetables and stuff like that, your body may change in a negative way so that you aren't necessarily attracting a mate to procreate, because how could it possibly be safe in your body to make a human, right?
It's species inappropriate.
It's a species inappropriate diet. So you change with that. Gosh, there's so many other things we can get into too. I mean, a lot of women will come into this diet because they want to lose weight. Yeah. And from what I've learned, everything that I've done, I've realized that there really is only 3 reasons why women or men or anybody will hold on to excess fat on their body in the first place. First one being is that your body is trying to store excess calories for whatever reason, whether it's a hormonal implication, a stress implication, a poor nutrition implication, but it's trying to keep extra energy on your body. The second reason is that your body is actually trying to dilute toxins. So I had a mentor one time and he said that the solution to pollution is dilution, right? So you put on more fat on the body so that any toxins that might be coming in have somewhere to go, so it's not burdening you. So this you see a lot, and I see this a lot in hairdressers actually, because they're exposed to so many chemicals all the time, and it's super easy for them to actually gain weight over time. And then, you see this in women who use a lot of like chemically body products, fragrances, things like that. And I do urine testing on a lot of my patients to actually see which ones are coming up, like which toxins they're actually burdened with. So that's a really interesting thing too. And then the third one is that the body will put on excess fat as a surface area for hormone production or hormone transference. So a good example for this one is your middle-aged woman who has gone through menopause and she puts like that spare tire on around her midsection. Well, what a lot of people don't know is when someone goes through menopause, what happens is basically your ovarian production just shuts off, which tanks your estrogen. So there's a process called aromatization whereby you can take other hormones and turn them into estrogen, but it only happens in fat tissue. So you have to put on this extra fat as a way for the body to say, hey, I'm trying to make more estrogen, where, if we solve that problem, we can just give someone bioidentical estrogen or increase their diet so they're actually getting more healthy fats in and like really push that cholesterol pathway so they can get better conversion overall. So those 3 things, and carnivore diet hits almost all of them. as far as it's a great diet to help you detox. It's a great diet to give you nutrient density. And it's a great diet to basically help push all of your hormones in the proper direction. So I think that's another reason why people experience positive body changes.
Wow.
Actually, with you, it was very fast. You stopped eating salads. It was a drastic change. Like, it was so fast.
Yeah, it happened really quickly. It was just, all right, my body's happy now with this new level of nutrition coming in. And I wasn't trying to lose weight. Like I didn't think that I was going to at all. And with how much I was eating, like literally a ribeye every day, a giant container of yogurt, like I would have bacon and eggs, burgers, like it was a lot of food. And it just fat just fell off, I should say. I really like to make the distinction between weight loss versus fat loss. Because weight loss could mean that you're losing muscle, you're losing bone density, whereas fat loss is usually what people are trying to aim for.
I'm really curious, both of you guys obviously very fit, very invested both in the dietary side of things as well as the physical exercise. I was just wondering if you would place a particular emphasis on one over the other for overall health.
We both agree that diet trumps the gym, because you can have a crappy diet and you will never be able to outwork it in the gym. But if you have a really solid diet, you can minimize how much time you spend in the gym. So we were just talking about this. Somebody was asking me the other day, I went to an appointment and the tech that I was working with, she's like, so what do you eat? What do you work out? And I was telling her, I eat all meat and I work out 6 days a month. And she was like, I thought you were going to say a week. I'm like, no, I can maintain, I can put on muscle very easily. And it's literally about 6 days a month.
She used to do fitness competitions and now she looks better than she did back then.
Look better now than I ever did when I got on stage for a fitness competition, and it's effortless.
You go to the kitchen to lose weight, you go to the gym to put on muscle.
Up until very recently, I was working out quite a bit, probably like 7 days a week, and seeing very, very kind of minimal results. Sean Baker, is a local here in Seattle. I've been very fortunate and lucky that he's generous enough, invited me over a couple times to work out with him. And man, it was like a brand new world working out with him. Before I went in telling him, I'm like, I love working out. It's the best thing ever. I need to do it. I did one workout with him. I'm like, I'm never working out again. The whole definition of what it actually means to exercise. I think that's actually another misconception. Especially after hearing Sean's thoughts, is like, if you're going to go train, you really have to get that intensity in, do these sets to failure. And what you'll find is you'll cut down the amount of time spent in the gym, which is obviously very useful. You boost your results. For Zach, when you go to the gym, you train till failure, maybe just a few sets, and just walk out and focus on what you're actually feeding yourself with.
Yeah, I actually do heavy. So I do like fail sets of like 3 to 4. 4 reps. I've always done that. And that's always been my goal was always strength in the gym, not necessarily getting big. And getting, size just came. I wanted to work out to be strong. And I think the one thing that people miss when they're going to the gym is their cortisol. So if you're like super stressed out, don't go to the gym.
Yeah, because cortisol is going to be very catabolic. So it's actually going to prevent you from putting on muscle because it's not a preferred state. Your body's trying to keep you alive, which is most of the people in the US right now, right? Everybody is running on so much high cortisol these days. Yes. I really, I put a post up not too long ago, and it was like, people are like, they think that the biggest things are status or money. I'm like, the real flex is a regulated nervous system. Like if you can walk around in this world, just like chill, unbothered, like, I think that's
hard to do.
To strive for, really right? But it's like the thing to strive for. I think so, at least, because then everything else becomes easier if your nervous system is regulated and calm.
Yes. Definitely a lot of paradoxes there between what we accept to be true and what's actually true. The other interesting thing about the gym is like most people I know go to the gym to de-stress, right? They're stressed out. They go in, lift some weights. They feel like they have that, catharticism in their life. But from what I'm hearing now, that's actually counterintuitive to actually getting the results that you want by spending that amount of time and energy.
Yeah. And then coffee or like caffeine before you work out, it's actually terrible. Coffee actually raises your blood pressure and your cholesterol.
We learned a lot in this book. It's
Caffeine Blues.
It's called Caffeine Blues.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you're almost done reading it.
Yeah.
Once he's done reading, I'm going to read it with
if you guys read that book, you'll never drink coffee.
Yeah. We were really big coffee drinkers. Like he would make it for me every morning. I would make this, I would take heavy cream and whip it so it was nice and thick. And it was just the most beautiful cup of coffee you've ever had. But now we're fully done with it. And I've honestly never felt better. What I got back was my evening energy. So now I can actually do things at 7:00 at night. Whereas before I would just sit on the couch and just veg out.
Yeah. I wanted to say something about you're asking about working out too. And the time of day that you work out is important.
Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. So for men, it's so interesting. Women work on a 28-day cycle as far as hormones go. Men actually work on a 24-hour cycle. So men get a big burst of testosterone first thing in the morning. That's actually a preferred time to work out, so you can use that burst.
Growth hormones higher, like around 10 o'clock.
I definitely feel that in myself. As the day drags on, I get less and less energy. But, you know, the other thing I was curious about is obviously later in the day, you're going to have a little bit more mobility. When I try to work out first thing in the morning, you know, mobility and range of motion is always kind of an issue. Do you have any ways of combating that?
You got to stretch.
Just stretch more.
Dude, yeah. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but he can do inverted splits on Bosu balls. Like it's sickening how flexible he is. It's creepy.
But I actually think that the more flexible you are, the more strength comes with it.
Definitely.
Your muscles have more range of motion. You just have more strength.
More contraction. Yeah.
How old are you?
25. She's 26.
So just because I've been working out since I was 15, your strength comes when you're like 31, 32, 33.
Oh.
Really?
We have like mature muscle, the actual strength that comes with it will be better at that age.
Does this apply to women as well?
I mean, I would assume so.
I definitely feel stronger than I did for sure. But I think so for women, the other thing to consider is that you are going to feel different at different times in your cycle because of the way that your hormones are. And so I think it's also really important to pay attention to, well, how am I actually feeling? Do I feel strong? Do I feel like I need more nourishment? Do I feel like I need more rest? And actually listening there, guys don't necessarily have that consideration. They can pretty much just go unless they're injured. But you know, what he said about mature muscle, we talk about this all the time. People who do steroids, they're going to get the really quick results right away. But nothing compares to mature muscle as far as longevity goes and actually
strength.
And strength, right? You can get the big looking muscles, but man, there's guys that look bigger than him in the gym and he can throw weights over like.
I mean, like, I lift heavy, like, and that's always been my goal. And then don't overdo it. A lot of people work out every day. You don't need to do that.
No, you
definitely. I've been there many times.
A lot of people have really high, like even HSCRP, their inflammatory markers go through the roof just from working out. Right? You can eat perfect and you do that, and you can actually just have a cascade of inflammatory markers that just go up. You got to give your body a break. Yeah, it has to heal.
Yeah.
Gym addiction is real though, you know.
Oh man, trust me. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Like I remember like when they shut everybody down.
Oh my gosh.
That 3 months
during
like
COVID, he was
just working out all day.
I was outside. You know the 5-gallon, the blue water jugs?
Yeah.
I would get 2 of those and they have handles on them, and I would literally like walk around like lifting the jugs and like walking down the street with them in my hands and just doing stuff that I'd never done before because I was going antsy. And I bought those bands, remember?
Yeah, I bought these like resistance bands that you could adjust up to different weights. Yeah, they kind of sucked.
A lot of the common symptoms when carnivores first start this lifestyle are headaches, low energy, intense muscle cramping, not as much endurance in the gym. And that usually is due to not enough electrolytes. So you can either salt heavier on all of your carnivore meals, or you can lean on some high quality electrolytes like this one from Element. These are extremely clean, very good ingredients, and provides all 3 electrolytes measured out for you. And I always recommend this teal box raw unflavored version just because there is 0 stevia, 0 flavorings and additives, and it's literally just the 3 bare electrolytes. You can throw them in your work bag, take it with you anywhere you go, and drink it down with any beverage of your choice. So Steak and Butter Guy takes these every single day, and he just mixes it in some iced water, drinks it down, and he's good to go. If you guys would like a free sample pack with any purchase, you can go to the URL shown on the screen, drinklmnt.com/SBGAL, and you will get all of their flavors in this sample pack to try, including the raw unflavored 0 stevia one. I've also linked the URL down below in the description box if you want to click up a link. So let's talk about stem cells. You post about stem cells a lot. I know it's one of your passions and specialties. Share a little bit about stem cells. I personally know nothing about this.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is so much fun. I love talking about stem cells. So Stem cells are basically primitive cells that are undifferentiated, which means that they can turn into different things and do different jobs in the body. And there's different types of stem cells. So the ones that we use most commonly in a clinical setting are called mesenchymal stem cells, or MSCs. And these are the ones that actually have the ability to turn into things like bone, muscle, cartilage, nerve fiber, fat tissue, all the stuff that we'd be mainly concerned with when it comes to like healing and regenerating parts of the body. The place where we normally find these is actually in a person's adipose tissue or fat tissue. So when it comes to, working in a clinical setting, what I usually do with my patients is we do a very minor liposuction procedure. We remove about 1 to 2 sticks of butter worth of fat from them, and we process them and then give them back to the patient depending on what their needs are. So if we have to treat a neck, a shoulder, a hip, a knee, we can inject all those areas with the stem cells. They go in, they initiate healing cycles, and they'll go and heal and repair. We can also put some in intravenously. And this is really cool because the stem cells will have the ability to go throughout the whole entire body, find areas of damage and inflammation, and again, initiate those healing cycles. They also have the ability to modulate inflammation, and they have the ability to modulate the immune system. So they can turn your inflammation down. They can help people who have autoimmune disorders to turn off the attack on their body. They also have the ability to donate their mitochondria to any of the mitochondria in your cells that might be dying. It's pretty phenomenal. I mean, we see some really incredible stuff clinically. I mean, we've gotten people out of wheelchairs. We've stopped progression of MS. We've gotten people who have autoimmune disorders completely off their medications. We've gotten people with intractable pain disorders off their pain medication. We cure ED a lot. Like we use stem cells for ED, even for female sexual dysfunction too. We can do injections for that as well.
It's called the O shot or the P shot.
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard of stem cells, it was like this Hollywood secret. This is probably a decade ago. I remember hearing it in the news, and at the time, it was like something like Robert De Niro, George Clooney. They go to New Mexico for stem cell therapy because I believe at the time there were both legal and financial accessibility issues because this is a relatively newer form of medical technology. So I was just wondering, what's the situation there now? What's the landscape looking like as far as accessibility? And who is it for?
So the landscape in the United States could be better, if I'm being completely honest. There's a lot of regulations here, a lot of, 3-letter organizations that are trying to keep their pockets padded and trying to really get this service away from people, which is really sad. Now, other countries, like you're saying, there's Mexico, Germany, Panama, like all these other places that are so far advanced, not that we couldn't do it, but they're doing more advanced things than we are here. So in the United States, we're kind of limited to where we can actually source stem cells from. So taking them from your own body is obviously a really great way to do it, but not everybody is going to be a candidate for that for various reasons. And then there's the whole birth tissue market. And birth tissue basically means anytime you're taking a product from a full-term live birth, fully consenting mom, no moms or babies are harmed in this. This isn't like the 90s embryo stuff that really made the news. But now these products have to go through manufacturing, and they'll process the umbilical cord. So with the umbilical cord, you get actually the cord blood, and you'll also get the Wharton's jelly, which is like the gelatinous stuff inside that cord. And then you can also get amniotic fluid. You can get placental matrix. There's various things in the whole birth tissue category. Most of the time when that processing is done, there actually isn't any, maybe a few live stem cells left. Doesn't mean that they're bad products, but what it means is that they're actually growth factor products instead. So there's still going to be lots of stuff that are in there that's going to be positive for growth, but it's not necessarily going to be dependent on the actual stem cells. So the indications for those types of therapeutics aren't necessarily the same as an actual stem cell procedure, simply because you have to understand how these things behave and what sort of things you can apply them to, right? So a stem cell product is going to behave dramatically differently than a growth factor based product. When it comes to actually determining, who can benefit from these, I think most doctors have kind of like their base level qualifications. And my base level qualifications for people are they can't have any active cancer, they can't be smokers, they can't be an uncontrolled diabetic. There's certain medications that they can't be taking. And then, of course, their concern has to be one that I feel confident we can treat. So as far as what the things are that we can treat, they were saying we can do pretty much almost any joint in the body. And the people who really opt for these options when it comes to, should I do surgery or should I do stem cells? It's usually the people that are younger who want to actually prevent having surgery in the first place, because again, surgery is no guarantee. And they really feel like the natural option, triggering their body to heal and actually regenerating the issue, is going to be a better choice for them personally. And then I have the other side where we also get patients who have tried everything else. They've taken all the medications, they've done the surgery, they're still in pain, they're still suffering. Sometimes I'm their last resort. So they're like, hey, we've done it all. Let's try stem cells now. So we get all of it.
Wow.
So as opposed to steroids, this is something that actually long-term is very feasible and it stays with you. So if I wanted to get stem cells injected into my hip for hip pain, that is something that I can count on to stick around for a while and prevent me from having like a hip replacement later on in life.
Yeah, this is such a great distinction to make, is that so many people are familiar with cortisone as an injection, and you put the cortisone in and your pain goes away. Well, yes, but it comes at a cost. So not only is the cortisone, it's going to actually make the area worse by depleting minerals from the bones. So it's going to decrease the bone density. It's actually going to be toxic to the area that you put it in. It's going to tank your immune function systemically. And most of the time it makes people gain weight. And there's not always a guarantee that it's even going to reduce your pain, because what matters is what's actually generating your pain in the first place. And this is the differentiator that I at least make, and I know a couple of my other colleagues do as well, is that we don't just rely on imaging. I actually want to figure out what structure is generating the pain. So something like the hip, well, you have the actual joint, you have the supporting tendons, you have the supporting muscles, and there's of course nerves that run through there. If we're just blindly shooting into the joint without figuring out what it is that's actually causing your pain, we're guessing at best, and that leads to an ineffective treatment down the road. Right. And then you brought up another good point with, okay, if we are going to treat the area with stem cells or regenerative medicine, what's really cool is that the healing that you get is yours to keep, right? So all healing in the body is technically a stem cell mediated process. If you get a cut on your arm, so say, you were a kid, you ran, you scraped your knee, you never doubted that that scrape was going to heal because the stem cells in your body were going to go in and they were going to heal it. And you also never doubted that would just randomly reopen again in the future on its own because it's healed, right? The healing that you got was yours to keep. So whenever we're doing like a stem cell based type of healing, it's going to be yours to keep. Now, of course, we're all degenerating, we're all aging. So there is still going to be the possibility that things might come back or something in the future, something new might pop up, or you might re-injure it as well. But generally speaking, people get better.
Do you ever prescribe or at least recommend to your patients to go carnivore? And if they do go carnivore, do they happen to fix their issues before going for stem cell therapy?
Yes and yes. So when patients come to actually see me for stem cell therapy, I have a whole back-end program that they get enrolled into. And there's a bunch of different modules in there. So I teach them actually about getting into a mindset that's conducive to healing. I teach them about stem cell science. I teach them how to sleep so that they're actually going to heal and repair when they sleep. And then we talk about diet. And what I teach in there, I'll call it animal-based, basically hyper carnivore, because a lot of people are coming into it standard American, and I need it to be like, this is a relatively easy transition. And so I teach them kind of animal-based in that regard. And then they go through all these modules before they actually do their like big consultation time with me, because I want them educated before they come into that so we can be way more strategic with our time together versus answering general questions. So once we're actually in our consultation, I ask them, how are things going with the diet changes? I'll usually encourage them to actually go further. And most of my patients, by the time they actually come to the office for the procedure, report a 20 to 30% reduction in their symptoms before everyone's stepping foot in my office. Wow. It has been a game changer. A game changer.
Fantastic. What are your top tips to get them started for someone who's so new to this concept? I'm sure a lot of your patients are like, are you crazy? I don't know if I want to do this. Like, how do you ease them into this lifestyle?
A lot of my patients follow me on social media, so they kind of already know coming into it. So that's been a really nice thing about having the social media presence, is that I'm not hiding anything. You know the person that you're coming to, and it's going to be pretty obvious. And when I'm teaching them in the modules, I do leave the diet module, the way of eating module for the last one, so that they've already kind of trusted the process and understand that what I'm saying is something that's going to work for them. So I think they're always a little bit more open-minded by the time they get to that point. And I always just tell them, just give it 30 days, because this is what I did. I was like, I'm gonna give it 30 days and then I'll give it another 30 days. And if something was going wrong, I would say just go back. Like, Kale will always be there to embrace you if you want it, but nobody's ever gone back. So I It's been really neat. I mean, I have this one patient and she came in and she was dealing with rheumatoid arthritis, bunch of issues. We basically saved her from 2 hips and a knee replacement, and she's pretty much full carnivore at this point. And I frequently go on her channel to do lives to just educate her followers too. And she's still been in it. And it's so crazy because I never know who's watching those. It's going to be hundreds or thousands of people. I think some of our videos have gotten like 40,000 views. It's been crazy. Wow. And I've gotten just random messages from people who've been like, thank you so much for sharing about carnivore because it saved my life. Like all the time. Right. And it's incredible. It's so powerful.
There's friends that we have that didn't tell us that they were doing carnivore, but then 3-4 weeks later, they're like, oh, look at my meat locker and all of our meat. And I'm like, wait, you're carnivore? And they're like, yeah, it's so great. This is not like, you didn't even tell me you were doing it.
Yeah, they don't tell us until after, and it's cool.
Sabrina and Zac, please do share where people can find more of you and how they can work with you.
Yeah, so I'm mainly on Instagram. It's just at Dr. Solt, DrSolt. My main clinic website is stemcelltherapypro.com. Our company that we have together where you can find our oyster product is Harder, Happier, Healthier. It's just harderhappierhealthier.com. Our YouTube channel, Carnivore H3. Yeah, so you can find us Facebook. And our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group for support. It's just Carnivore, Harder, Happier, Healthier. We have almost 3,000 people in there right now that we've been like helping, sharing information. It's a nice carnivore group. I don't know if you've been inside. People are watching.
Some of those groups are pretty rough.
Some of the groups are really mean. We're very accepting of everybody wherever you're at in your journey, because I don't see a point in like shaming anyone for where they're starting from, because ultimately the goal is to get you there. And if we need to support you exactly where you're at, I'm on board to do that. So we really try to foster that sort of environment in there. Awesome. And you are on Instagram?
Carnivore Z.
Carnivore Z on Instagram.
Perfect. Everything is linked down below.
That was absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Just like, you guys are both super intelligent, and I really commend you for just giving more exposure to some of the more taboo topics that are equally important to know about. So thank you guys so much for your time. Really enjoyed it and learned a lot. Thank you.
So much. Thank you guys for having us. We'd definitely love to come back if your audience wants it.
I really hope you guys enjoyed everything that we discussed with the Solts. If you are interested in learning more from Dr. Sabrina Solt, she will be a guest speaker in the January 30-day Carnivore Challenge. And in every single month challenge that I host, I feature a very different panel of guest speakers. So if any of the faces you see on the screen right now are experts that you are inspired from and would love to submit your questions to, just go to the URL shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or check out the links down below in the description box for clickable links. Don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this conversation, and feel free to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell notifications to not miss my future videos. I will see you in my next video. SPG out.